Well, I'm so glad that Kathleen had mentioned the Sangha. And this is a story about community. And this is the town that I live in on Whidbey Island. It's Langley. It's about 30 miles north of Seattle. Deborah, my wife, and I moved here when we were in our 20s. We're now over 60, so that gives you a little context there. At the grocery store, we're seeing far more older people than in the past. And then we realized they're our friends. So the balance has turned in our town significantly toward gray.
So we believe that a thriving community requires all generations, the young, the old, and those in between. The problem in a town like Langley, where there's a lot of gentrification, is it's really difficult for young people to find housing that they can afford.
Living wage jobs and lively culture are two other key factors to attracting younger generations. But my focus has been housing, so that's where I can make a contribution.
My day job is developing urban student housing for the University of Washington. My wife, Callie, who's also a partner in our project, has a company at Doe Real Estate, which focuses on healthy homes and sustainable communities.
All of us see community as a key part of our work. So in June of 2012, we came across an opportunity to make our contribution toward thriving community when we heard about this 16-unit apartment complex that came up for sale near the downtown core.
The property initially listed for $1.9 million, but as the recession went on, the cost went down. And when it got to $1.3 million, Ross, Deborah, Callie, and myself decided we would meet with some friends to see if we could find a way to purchase the property.
Of the 20 or so that were gathered, I was among the youngest. And the general response in the group was, well, this would be really great when I can't live in my house anymore. And I spoke up saying, well, that's fine, except that if we're going to have a wider community worth living in, we have to have a place that welcomes youngers as well. I suggested that if we were serious about buying the property, someone should step forward and make an offer. That way, we'd have time to figure out the project's feasibility without it being snapped up by someone else.
One of the older couples stepped up and said that they would make an offer on behalf of the group, but 3 days later they backed out.
So what do you know? A couple of days after that, I found myself waking up in a half-dream state with this booming voice coming in saying, step into the gap, make this happen. What am I getting myself into? To make a long story short, the four of us decided to take on the role of designers and developers and transform the community on spec. Deborah and I stepped forward with earnest money, and we made an offer to purchase the property all cash for $1.1 million in 45 days.
Callie and I live in Seattle, and we both wanted to move to the island, so it was very apparent that we wanted to step forward and be partners with Ross and Deborah on this project.
It was when our offer was accepted that I began to sweat. My impulse, was it realistic? Was the project feasible? Did we have a clear vision? And mostly, where the heck were we going to find all this money?
So we went into our savings about as deeply as we possibly could, and we came up with less than half the money. And then, so we were $600,000 short with 40 days to find it.
So here's the vision. We set out to transform this apartment complex into an intentional ownership community that's multi-generational, income diverse, ecologically responsible, and socially healthy. And we set out a strategy, an ABC strategy, to make it happen.
So the A part is the acquisition team. That was Ross, Deborah, Callie, and myself. And we set up an LLC so that we could actually take care of all the permits, all the loans, everything that was required to make the project move forward. We also were going to do the rentals for 2 years on the project.
The Bridge Circle, the B team, would be a group of about a dozen community-minded individuals and couples who would loan us money at low interest, at 2%, to make the purchase and transform the property.
The community circle were potential buyers, potential renters, and other people within the community who had strong perspectives or knowledge about how we might move this forward. While we were the main drivers and did all the authorship, if you will, we had them behind us looking over our shoulder and helping us work forward with a lot of things around the management, around conflict resolution, around all the CC&Rs and everything that was required to put forward, including our improvement strategies.
We are absolutely thrilled to report, and we're relieved to say that we gathered enough money by the deadline for an all-cash purchase of the property without going through a bank, and then proceeded to build out our vision, sell all the units, and pay back the Bridge Circle with interest. And 2 months ago, we celebrated the launch of the 5th Street Commons community.
The site has 4 residential buildings with a common house in the center, which was formerly a laundry. To the sides are carports and lots of parking. We have a bay in the carports for bicycles and a future electric vehicle. Parking covers much of the property, which is a result of the zoning in Langley that required 2 spaces for each of the units. Runoff from the parking lots is filtered through a rain garden behind the common house.
We see the ability to grow food as a critical capacity. Wherever possible, ground is being claimed for gardens. Last season, the first residents planted a number of fruit trees and had a modest vegetable garden. And now they're expanding and they're preparing the beds for this coming spring.
As we look to the future, we are in meetings with the city regarding zoning to see if we can remove a portion of the upper parking to create a larger community garden to share with 2 other adjacent properties. We're also looking at building a greenhouse, a recycling center, and another tool shed on the property, as well as looking at solar on all the roofs as well as the carports.
Storage is really critical. We're at a lack. And so we're looking to add modified container units just to the east of the carport and a shed for recycling and refuse.
Kelly and I are hoping to do a passive house above the parking lot if we can get zoning approval.
So the existing buildings were reasonably well built, although rather plain, with 1 and 2 bedroom units ranging in size from 590 to 700 square feet. We've set up a condominium ownership structure with 15 owners having a shared ownership of the 16th unit to be rented below market rate to an intern or worker at one of the local nonprofits.
The major focus of our construction has been the renovation and transformation of the central laundry into the common house, making it a fully functioning hub of the community. Fortunately, the building was positioned well to the north side of the lawn.
We tripled its size to include a community living room, a dining room, a full kitchen, bathroom, multi-purpose guest room, meeting room, laundry room, and a lower level with a workshop and storage room opening to a large deck.
We wanted to be as ecologically responsible as we could in all of our improvements in the renovation. So we have a 6.4 kilowatt PV system on the roof. We have heat pump hot water heater installed in the attic, mini splits, and then of course we used all the low VOC materials and paints that we could find.
Many of you might know of my work with pocket neighborhoods, which are based on design patterns that foster a strong sense of community. At the 5th Street Commons, we introduced or reinforced a number of these patterns. The most fundamental pattern is the scale of sociability. This recognizes that in small groups, conversation is spontaneous. It's what we're wired for as humans. So it's only natural that our neighborhoods should be designed to support our human nature.
At the heart of the community is the shared commons. It's an intermediate zone between the public and the private. This is the place. This is the place where the impromptu conversations take place, play takes place, and parties happen.
Privacy is crucial to cultivating community. So we've introduced various layers of personal space to help balance the feeling of being too exposed or too isolated.
5th Street Commons residents range in age from 3 to 73. There's 24 adults, 4 teens, 8 children, 11 dogs. We include a Unitarian minister, a hospice worker, emergency responder, a welder, a massage therapist, preschool director, and lots of others.
There have been lively potlucks already, music jam sessions, a pumpkin carving party, and Qigong classes. And they've been working through tough issues about dogs, about cats, and noise. The community has really come alive, and it's so young, even now.
The units all sold at the price between $109,000 and $139,000, far below the median house cost in Langley. There was no equity capped, but we do ask that 1% go back to the community when that units are sold.
So this project never went on to the market. It was not shown on the Realtors Multiple Listing Service. It was not on Craigslist, nor any of the notice boards. We did not advertise. We didn't send any general email announcement blasts. Information only went out through word of mouth in the local community. We did this to steer the balance toward younger buyers. Knowing the community as I do, all the units would have been snapped up by older buyers given the prices and the location.
Our goal is to create an affordable and engaged community for all ages.
We did it, and we think that this is a model that can be replicated.